Now, last night's signing of Laviska Shenault, in my opinion, has marked the end for the Buffalo Bills and free agency. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to plug my microphone in here real fast because my audience deserves nothing but the crispest audio in the game. That's a hell of a lot better. Sorry for the technical difficulties to begin. But yeah, I honestly think that for the most part, the Buffalo Bills are done with free agency. Of course, outside of a couple of like roster filling positions, guys, obviously, that we will be bringing in for training camp as a training camp body, etc. But as far as roster filling, as far as guys that genuinely have a great chance of being a Buffalo Bill in 2025 during week one, I think we're done. So on today's stream, what I wanted to do is I wanted to go through all of the transactions. That is including all of the restructures, that is including all of the extensions, and then also the free agency signings, and place a grade on this 2025 season. Now, obviously, I know this is going to be polarizing. Some Bills fans are not so happy because we didn't end up walking away with a big name, right? And that's completely fine. I understand. I'm not going to police how people are allowed to fan. You can fan however you would like. And then other Bills fans are thinking above the moon. Like, listen, Brandon Beane, he's the genius. He filled all of the holes that we needed on a relatively cheap basis. And we're set up beautifully walking into the NFL draft. Well, we are going to go through everything that the Buffalo Bills have done throughout the past couple of weeks and give them a damn grade, man. Look at that. Shout out to everybody joining me today. Do me a favor, smash that like button. We have a goal of over 150 like buttons smashed each and every single episode. That is including our live viewers, and that is also including our viewers that are watching the replay of this episode. If you are watching the replay of this episode, I really want to eventually bring you on to our live chat community. So it's very important that when you do subscribe, just go on ahead and do me a favor and hit that bell notification sign so you can be notified next time that I am live. But without further ado, let's just jump right on into it, folks. The Buffalo Bills offseason thus far. We are going to go player by player, and then I am going to say whether or not that I think that this was a needle-moving move or a needle in the right direction sort of move from Brandon Beane, where his head was at, whether or not that I agree with it, so on and so forth. Very first one was obviously extending Josh Allen to a 6-year extension, $330 million, $250 million fully guaranteed. I think fans' favorite conversations are always largely centralized around, oh my God, this player got overpaid, or the team overpaid for X or Y. But I don't think that I have found a Bills fan yet that has said that we have overpaid Josh Allen. I honestly think that we ultimately ended up locking down the quarterback for the remainder of his career up in Buffalo. I honestly don't think anybody is upset with this extension. He deserved every single penny of this. It did help us out slightly. Fun fact, they did release the full contract details for Josh Allen, which I'm interested to actually take a look at once we're done with this conversation. But not pissed off about the Josh Allen move. The Darrington Evans move, a 1-year, $1.2 million at $15,000 guaranteed, that has to be a typo. There's no way that $15,000 exclusively is guaranteed. Maybe they meant $150,000. I will give them the benefit of the doubt. But this guy was brought in, I think, for the kick returning competition. I think that we're going to be having some conversations of whether or not that we want to roll with Cordington, with Evans, and then obviously last night we brought in Laviska Shenault, which we will get to. Then next up was Ty Johnson. I was not upset about this. He is hands down the RB3, one of the best RB3s, third down backs in the NFL. And to get him on a $5 million deal spread across 2 years, I am absolutely thrilled. Reggie Gilliam kind of didn't make sense to me. Sort of didn't make sense to me here. I understand the familiarity and everything. A 1-year, $2 million. I suppose that I'm not really pissed off about it. It's not like that's costing us anything significant. But I guess this was a familiarity like move.
maybe we could have went out and found somebody that maybe might have been a better contributor, but I'm not entirely upset. It was just a bit of a head scratcher there. Josh Palmer, completely fine with this one. 3-year, $36 million deal, $18 million guaranteed. As many of us know, I do not care about the total value of a contract. I care about what is guaranteed to the player. And at $18 million spread across 3 years, not a significant cap hit whatsoever on this team. I think Josh Palmer has a very high ceiling. He has demonstrated that he is a incredible route runner, has a full route tree, stepped up perfectly while he was in LA when specific wide receivers were hurt. And I think, surprisingly enough, and shout out to the fan that put this in my comments section a couple of weeks ago, I think Josh Palmer is basically our replacement for Amari Cooper, or at least what Amari Cooper could have been for the Buffalo Bills, if not for being injured shortly after we acquired him in the first place. So, love the Josh Palmer move, but we still have 2 wide receiver spots that, in my opinion, need to be filled. No, I am not counting Laviska Shenault. I know myself in 2019, I would have been pumped if the Buffalo Bills drafted him in the first place. But, yeah, I don't think that he's going to be much of a contributor to this offense. I think we're still looking for 2 more starters in this wide receiver room. Shakir, absolutely solid 4-year extension worth up to $60.2 million, $32 million guaranteed at signing. Again, love this deal for Shakir. This really didn't help us out much with potential spending in 2025 for this previous sort of free agency period. But this just goes to show you that he is our wide receiver number 1. I know people have this false notion that a wide receiver number 1 needs to be a perimeter guy, but that's not necessarily the case. There are several teams that have a guy that is in Khalil Shakir's position that dominates targets, that dominates yards, that dominates production. I'm fine with this deal for Khalil Shakir, and I promise you the second that T. Higgins and or Jamar Chase end up signing their contracts, this is going to look like pennies in the grand scheme of things. So I don't think anybody's going to be too upset with all of this. Next up with Joey Bosa. I'm sure several of you have been tuning into my individual streams for all of these signings. It's a high ceiling. It's high risk as well. Guy has only had 3 healthy seasons in his entire career where he has played every single game. I think LA last year was using him more as a rotational piece. So as long as he could go out there and somehow stay healthy, let's trust our training staff here that they could somehow rehab him into being the player that he used to be, at least on a health factor, then I think this could pay its dividends. We saved $9 million releasing Von Miller, and we paid him 12. So for anybody upset about the quote-unquote overpay, just look at it this way. We basically got him for 3 once you account the savings for Von Miller. And while Joey Bosa is injury-prone, quote-unquote, I have a feeling that he's still, even if he were to put about 9 or 10 games out and say, for example, he was hurt for a tad, I still think that Joey Bosa would still exceed Von Miller's potential production out there in the first place. So I don't think that we should be upset about this. We have Michael Hoyt, solid player, 3-year contract, up to $24 million. Guarantees are not solidified yet, but we will check out Spot Track there. But this guy has been listed as a defensive tackle and edge rusher. He's a massive special teams contributor, and he's 27 years old. I'm not sure if you guys remembered, but the playoff game for the LA Rams last year where the defense just went completely off, had to give that to obviously their young defensive coordinator, and Hoyt was out there making plays himself. So this could be a very sleeper pick for the Buffalo Bills. Perhaps he ends up stepping up and really having his best season yet. And really, he has his full career all ahead of him. Next up was Greg Rousseau, 4-year, $80 million extension, $54 million guaranteed at signing. Once you saw the Myles Garrett contract, I don't think that this was as bad as everybody was assuming that it would be. Greg Rousseau's extension really kind of gave us a difficult decision to make because it was either that we used him as trade capital for, say, for example, a Trey Hendrickson, or say, for example, a Myles Garrett. And obviously, none of those things worked out because Trey Hendrickson still is yet to be traded. I don't think Buffalo is going to make any move there. And then Myles Garrett obviously ended up signing back with the Cleveland Browns. But the second option for the Buffalo Bills was to run with Gregory Rousseau's fifth-year option, fully guaranteed salary at around $15 million. That could not have been done, especially if we wanted to make some of these other free agency acquisitions to help build our team. So our hands were a bit tied. I think Greg has shown splashes. I will be the first to say that I kind of wish he was further along in his development than he has been. But I suppose all we can do is just really cross our fingers and hope, right? Because while Ed Oliver, when he ended up getting that contract a couple of years back, that was his best season following that year. So I'm hoping Greg really follows suit. So not bad. I just want to see him explode this year because I think that he is a bit behind in his first round pedigree. Next up, have Larry Ogunjobi, 1-year deal, $8.3 million contract. It's $8 million guaranteed. Incentives worth up to $10 million. So really an $18 million deal, say, for example, that he performs. This guy has been on 3 AFC North teams, was drafted by the Cleveland Browns, spent a year on the Bengals, and then also on the Steelers. Best year was while he was a Cincinnati Bengal. In 2021, he had 7 sacks. Solid force rate in the interior of the line. If I'm a gambling man, I still think Daquan Jones is going to get the nod as the starter, even if we end up going for somebody early in the draft this year. I can't say how long that's going to last. It could be a couple of weeks, and then say Ogunjobi, or say, for example, the Kenneth Grants or the Derek Harmons or the Tyleek Williams of the world, whoever we walk away with in this draft class ends up replacing him. But I think Larry Ogunjobi is a wonderful depth piece because I really think this defensive line is ultimately going to be on a heavy rotation in 2025. And I'm fine with that because that's how I think that we can get crazy production at getting to the quarterback. Next up, you have Terrel Bernard. It's a 4-year extension. It's $25 million guaranteed, right? And we knew walking into the offseason that there were about 6 players that were up for an extension. I think Terrel Bernard was given priority because he would have been one of the cheapest contracts. I think that if we were to choose Christian Benford, his would have been a hell of a lot more expensive. But now it's devil's advocate, right? He's going to be even more expensive next year if we elect to wait that long. But I think Terrel Bernard was prioritized by this front office because they knew that we had the finances to get it done this year. Like $50 million really isn't all that bad. $25 million spread across like 4 years and full guarantees. That's like around $6 million of cap hit immediately based off of whether or not that he stays on this team in the first place. So I'm fine with Bernard. Derek Forrest, as many of us know, safety out of Washington. Had a stellar year while he was under the previous coaching regime and Ron Rivera, a system that Sean McDermott not only came from, but is also very similar to what we run. He excelled that year. But then Dan Quinn came back, barely used Derek Forrest. Many are saying that he is the best safety on our roster today. I'm not sure if that's saying or say that that's celebrating how good of a player he is, or it's downplaying how bad of a safety room we currently have. But I love this signing. DeMar didn't make sense. Did not make sense to me whatsoever. A 1-year, $2 million deal. We did hear that he ended up getting some agent and he was going to go out to free agency and get him a crazy deal, like blah, blah, blah. We heard interest. We heard Pittsburgh was interested, whatever. I feel like this is pretty polarizing. And many of you know that I am a DeMar Hamlin defender, where I have been saying I don't think he's been as bad as people wanted to say that he was, but that doesn't mean that I think that it was absolutely necessary to bring him back. I think that we could have been fine just by bringing in Derek Forrest. And then I think that we could have been fine just rocking with Cam Lewis as an emergency depth piece if, for example, the room suffered any sort of injury. So DeMar, to me, sort of feels like a Disney Channel original movie signing right? But I mean, who knows? I still think that we're going to find a safety somewhere in the draft. And then Reed Ferguson, I mean, come on, dude. He's a lifelong Bill. Nothing is going to change. So when I look at this entire free agency, including all of the re-signings, including the extensions and the restructures, which, by the way, we did restructure Ed Oliver as well, which was big. It was significant. We let go of Von Miller. I'm going to have to give the Buffalo Bills offseason thus far a B. And I would have given them a B+ / an A- if, for example, they were to bring in a CB2. As many of you know, I'm big on Asante Samuel Jr. Some of you guys are like, oh my God, he's a terrible tackler, but he excels in coverage, absolutely excels in coverage. I would rather take a CB2 that struggles with tackling opposed to somebody that struggles in coverage. But I think a B is what I'm going to have to give this free agency period. I still think that we are up in the upper echelon of other teams across the NFL. But still a little bit left to be desired. However, still wildly impressive for where we were on a financial standpoint leading up into this period. So I think we exceeded my expectations with what we were able to do. But we shall see. We have Raven 007 saying a Disney original channel signing was the Hamlin signing as bad as the Snow White premiere. Yeah, holy shit. I suppose that is a clippable moment. I did just call and coin the Damar Hamlin signing a Disney Channel original movie signing. John Mitchell is saying when Buffalo Bills win the Super Bowl, it's not going to be the city of Buffalo cheering for them. Who's going to be the city's overflowing Buffalo? It's going to be the big celebration. Oh my God, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be wild. You still have to tackle and to shoulder injury is a concern. Yes, but like some players excel in areas and some do not. Like can't find a perfect prospect all across the board. But look, it sounds like that we're not going to get him in the first place. He was just noted as visiting the Arizona Cardinals this morning. So I'm not particularly seeing us signing him. And that's completely fine because like we've done in my mock drafts already, I think there's plenty of options in the draft that could be day one contributors. But who knows? I don't know. I know Brandon Beane. I know this front office. Why do I have a feeling? Why do I have a feeling that we're going to be getting a reunion with Dane Jackson here within a couple of days? I have no idea. It's just something I'm feeling. I'm not saying I'm advocating for it, but come on. We know this team. We know this damn team. Anyway, I need to give a giant shout out to Kalshi, folks. Kalshi is the #1 prediction market on the internet today. Say, for example, that you want to bet on life, and I'm talking everything. You want to bet on politics, culture, crypto, weather, economics, companies, financials, tech and science, health, the world, who knows? You can bet on Kalshi. They just ended up actually launching their sports, and as you can see, you can go on ahead and predict the conference championships leading up into the March Madness tournament. And then also, if you are golf fans, then you can also go on ahead and take a look at who is going to win the U.S. Open Golf Championship, Open Golf Champion, Rory McIlroy, Scotty Scheffler, who's going to win that one. Kalshi is the best prediction market on the face of the planet. And if you sign up, folks, I'm giving you a free $10 so you can play around with, even if you want to bet on politics. All right, you can do that. Will the government shut down on Wednesday? Who knows, man? Go on ahead and check out Kalshi, #1 prediction market on the face of the planet. But anyway, folks, if you are watching this replay right now, this is the time of the episode where I end up transitioning over to my live chat. I am the only creator for the Buffalo Bills that includes their live chat on a regular basis. So I really like having these guys take advantage of controlling the conversation. So say, for example, that you want to get in on this, just make sure you turn on bell notifications. So next episode, you can join live. Last year in the Ralph, how awesome would that be? Like you don't know. I'll tell you what, man. It certainly would be a Disney Channel original movie, right? If we won in the final year of our stadium and or we won in the first year of our new stadium, Who knows? You are right, Dan, about CB2. No Dane Jackson, please. Right? Look, I'm not advocating for that, Matt. I'm not. But, man, there's just like some like toxic part of me that is just already anticipating. That's already anticipating that signing to occur. Oh, man. Oh, man. We have, like you don't know, watch Derek's highlights. You will be geeked. Listen, he's a solid safety. He plays very well in a system that McDermott has carved. And Derek is actually familiar with that since he's coming from a Ron Rivera. And look at this, right? Like Dan Quinn took over and he phased him out because he didn't necessarily fit within his ideology. But prior to Dan Quinn, when Ron Rivera was a part of that team, the secondary over in Washington was absolutely nuts. And Derek just so happened to be one of the biggest contributors. So, Derek Forrest, can he be a starting free safety for us? I certainly think that he could be. If they plan to extend Benford, hope they get it done before the season. If defensive line can get more consistent, quick pressure on opposing quarterbacks, the secondary will look even better and cost even more. Absolutely, right? Because right now where it stands, I kind of want to show you guys where Spot Track has Christian Benford. And it's quite a bit of cash. It is quite a bit of cash, folks. Hence why I had Christian Benford as my number one priority this offseason to extend. Now, obviously, I understand that the Buffalo Bills, they had their priorities elsewhere. And hey, I get it. But this is where he stands right now. He stands $22 million average annual salary. 4-year, close to $90 million a year. Average salary, so rated about 20. I would assume, say that they did come to an extension with this player, that he would be probably a bit closer. I don't know, like maybe a little more than half of $90 million guaranteed. But say, for example, folks, that we don't get it done this offseason, and I'm sure we'll figure it out. And we will be in a better situation next year as far as like money is concerned. But that number we're looking at right now, folks, is going to be closer to $32 million a year. If, for example, we don't get Christian Benford extended prior to training camp, that number is going to be almost $10 million more than what we are looking at right now. That is what they believe, because they are comparing this when they find an average annual salary and they try to think about a market value. What they do on this website is they compare similar players. And they think that Christian Benford is compared to the PS2s of the world, the Jair Alexanders of the world, the JC Horns of the world at $100 million, and Trayvon Diggs at 97. So, hence why I was pounding the table for so long, saying it's got to be Christian Benford. It absolutely has to be, because we just saw JC Horn at $100 million, and I'm sorry, but Christian Benford is light years better than JC Horn. Light years better than JC Horn. And he just ended up getting his 4-year contract, right? So all I'm going to say is, if you want Christian Benford on this team, we're hoping that somehow, some way we can figure out how to get this deal done, because this number is going to be about $33 million average next year if we elect to wait until the following offseason. So I am, I don't know. I'm hoping for the best. Sarah is saying, even if we do get good defensive line production this season, it's still only a short-term solution. So I think that we're in a good position, because teams that typically throw out a bunch of 1-year deals are very close and are still considered to be contenders. I don't think. And so I also think that like a lot of people, like based off of conversations I have been witnessing over on X, like people are now like, oh man, okay, cool. Like now we got Joey Bosa, and now we got Larry Ogunjobi, and now we got Michael Hoyt. That means the Buffalo Bills might be focusing on a CB2 early, or they might be focusing on a wide receiver early in the draft. I still think the Buffalo Bills are going to be grabbing a defensive tackle and an edge rusher within our first 3 picks, right? In fact, I can almost guarantee it. I can almost guarantee you that the Bills, with their first 3 picks off of the board, I think that 2 of the 3 will be a defensive tackle and an edge rusher. Because Bosa is only on a 1-year deal, as we know. And Larry Ogunjobi is only on a 1-year deal, as we know. And Daquan Jones' contract expires the following year as well. So that's something to consider. So I still think that we're going out and we're looking for a longer term solution. So it's good that we got these 1 years because that tells me that this team is really trying to go for it all. Like, this free agency has suggested that the Buffalo Bills are going all in. And so to win a Super Bowl. I know that it's not crazy ass names. And so I know it's not going to excite people that spend way too much time on Madden. But I promise you, this free agency that we're witnessing right now suggests one thing, that Buffalo is going all in. So to get exactly where they were last year and get over the hump. This is what this free agency tells you. I think Palmer is going to be an amazing addition. He is an amazing route runner and creates separation. He has veteran football sense. We are missing with Coleman. Don't sleep on Coleman either, man. There are so many players on this roster that have taken significant second-year jumps. One of which was Khalil Shakir. He took a incredible second-year jump, and that ended up getting him his extension. So did Benford. He took a crazy second-year jump. So did Terrel Bernard. He took a crazy second-year jump. So that's also something that I would really like for us to ingrain in our minds, where if there's something that's left to be desired from free agency, always remember this team's history of being able to develop players at a considerable amount of progression going into year 2 and year 3. Like, there are so many examples on this roster today that it's very difficult for me to suggest that we're not going to see our second-year players, 2 out of the 3 or 2 out of the 4, 3 out of the 5, what have you, take that next step in development. So that's also something that should make us feel a bit more coddled. What's up, Dan? Happy Friday. So now that there's concern with Samuel Jr.'s health, and do you think they should still pace him? Who would be the next best CB Bills can go for? Go Bills. Bills Mafia J718. So I just heard news that he was visiting Arizona today. It sounds like teams are very concerned with his injury history, because otherwise I think he would have been signed by now. And maybe his price wouldn't be that crazy now, right? Because it doesn't appear that teams are willing to pay top dollar for this corner. I would still welcome him with open arms. I really would. But say that we can't get him, then I am going to bet on the development of Jamarcus Ingram. I am also going to bet on going for a corner, like a Maxwell Hairston, like a Darian Porter, like a Siobhan Revel. Who knows? I would be fine with either solution. And you think that we re-sign Miller on a vet deal? I think at this point I'd be shocked. I feel at this point I would be shocked. Let me see. All right. And so I would have gone after Kyle Juszczyk. So I'm not even sure if he's signed yet, to be honest with you. Okay, remember when rookie quarterbacks didn't play for 3 years? It was a long time, man. It was a long time. I'm just optimistic. Shaq Griffin, low-key, could be a good option as a vet. He's a good tackler, physical. He can still play. Interesting. Maybe bring in someone like Akello Witherspoon for depth and for dirt cheap if he doesn't get picked up in free agency period already. And you have plenty of picks to move up. We probably can roster only 5 and or 6 picks. Dan, and do you feel like there's anyone in the division that could be a threat to Buffalo winning the division? No. I still think that we are going to run away with the division. But as far as like who I think is going to be a wild card team and who I think is going to be competitive in the AFC East is going to be the Patriots. It's going to be the Patriots. Say that I had to guess. Because number one, I do think that Drake May has shown flashes of what he could be. I have a lot of respect for Mike Vrabel. I love what they did during free agency. I would give the Patriots an A as far as what they were able to accomplish in free agency, but quite frankly, they had to because they had like one of the worst rosters in all of the NFL last year. But I don't see the Jets being competitive this year. Like they have lost troves of good players. And even when they had like one of the best rosters ever put on paper, they still were absolute ass. And the Miami Dolphins suck. So we know that they're not going to be an issue. I think the Patriots are going to end up finishing second place and get like a 7th seed this year in the playoffs. But as far as a division, absolutely not. I actually agree. I think the Pats will be second best in the division. I mean, so it's a solid coach in Vrabel, and they just spent a lot of money on their defense, and we can just go from there. I would not be surprised if the team tries to bring Trey back. I would not be against it. Edward, I mean, listen, if we can get him on like a 1-year, $2 million deal or something like that, for sure. Lock it in. Lock it in, man. Jets may get better culture-wise, but Fields ain't the answer for them. Habitual line stepper, only the Bills is making the playoffs. Stop with the fantasy, Dan. I don't know, man. Listen, say, for example, that I had to bet if another team in the AFC East makes it, I think it would be the Patriots. Regardless, I think that they will finish in second place. That I can almost book stamp ready to go. I can't promise that they will make the playoffs, but I can almost guarantee you that they are the second best team in the AFC East based off of what I have been seeing. We know that it's not the Dolphins. We know that it's not the Jets. I think it's the Patriots' turn. Jets won't be competitive until they fix the rot at the top, in my opinion. Who's that? The owner? Sarah Christine. As bad as people thought Dane was, he played better than Rasul Douglas was last year. I never thought that Dane Jackson was bad. I still think that we should upgrade from him, but I never thought he was terrible. Brandon Day. We either bring back Rasul or Wallace and to set the floor for a cornerback room. Then we draft one and see what happens after camp, in my opinion. It's probably going to be something like that. Cooper Kupp is coming to Denver. Is that official? Is that official now? All right, listen, we have a couple of super chats we have to get to. Soul Train, I like Bosa on the Bills instead of a 3-4 defense in LA. As long as we use him as a rotational defensive end, I think that he could be wildly productive. I really, really do. William is saying, Dan, and do you think Josh breaks Cam Newton's rushing record? Absolutely. Absolutely. And Cam will be in shambles. Scott, what is going on, man? Hope all is well. Speaking of Josh Allen's contract, that was officially loaded onto Spot Track. And I'm actually curious to take a look at it. I did briefly while I was at the gym this morning, but obviously I wasn't able to really dive in and understand what this contract looked like. To appreciate the genius of Brandon Beane, let's see what we're working with. And look at this, man. QB1 has made $174 million in career earnings. Shout out to QB1. His 2025 cash is $58 million. So dude just got $58 million. He's living large, $41 million dead cap hit. So this is how it looked up, folks. We have a 6-year. We have QB1 all the way until 2030 is the final season. Okay. 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 2030, and then 2031, he would be a free agent. But I promise you, this guy is going to sign yet another deal prior to his retirement. And we have a potential out in 2030. So we really locked in on QB1, which I am not mad at. So what happened? His salary would have been around, I think, like 40 something million this year, but his base salary this year is at $1.2 million. Signing bonus was about $15 million. As we know, we got about $250 million fully guaranteed, plus these salaries incorporated there. Restructures rated about $15 million. His option was at 8.4, and his cap hit is sitting at around $4.1 million by itself. So what's intriguing is that we have a couple of void years on his deal. We have 2 void years here. And next year, once you end up looking at his $61 million cap hit, a lot of this is being set up to where we could restructure if absolutely necessary. And also remember, we are seeing the salary cap in the NFL jump on average about $27 to $30 million per year. So while we look at this contract, we're like, oh my God, that's going to be a crazy cap hit. I promise you, folks, I absolutely promise you, the next 6 quarterbacks that get paid are going to propel Josh Allen to about the 12th highest paid quarterback in the NFL once again. We are looking at this contract, 6-year, $330 million, 55 on average. I promise you, in 4 years, folks, the highest paid quarterback in the NFL will be making an average of $80 million a year. And we are going to see the same thing that happened last time, where Josh Allen, where our good friend Josh Allen is going to be ranked 15th highest paid QB. So in all retrospect, I do not hate this deal whatsoever. But since we're on to this conversation, let's check out Gregory Rousseau, huh? Let's check out Gregory Rousseau. What does his contract look like? Greg Rousseau. Greg Rousseau. There he is. Okay. His cap hit was only $5.87 million, so we understood why we did it in the first place. Are these still estimations? Still estimations for Greg Rousseau. Still estimations for the guy. And look at this. We have a potential out. So we have a potential out on Gregory Rousseau after the 2027 season if it does not work out. So say, for example, we wanted to walk away from him in 2028. It's just not working. We'd save $24 million on said contract. So not a bad deal at all for what Gregory Rousseau was able to bring to the table. So not bad if you were to tell me. Dan the man, if he can call it, no one can. Bobby, I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much, dude. I love all of the support that you guys give me on a regular basis, man. Y'all are incredible. 174 of you in here right now, guys. Do me a favor, hit that thumbs up sign for me and subscribe to the channel if you haven't had an opportunity of doing so already. We are discussing the free agency moves and grading what the Buffalo Bills have done so far. I have to say, Bills have been very fortunate that Josh always seems to stay healthy. Big part why y'all have been so successful. Let's knock on wood and hope that that's the case, especially for a mobile quarterback that is somehow able to be on some crazy-ass streak for consecutive starts. I'm happy about it. Players started acting before ever winning a damn thing. Too crispy. Apparently, the way Josh's contract is structured still has him at 12th in cap percentage amongst other quarterbacks. I believe stated that on his podcast. Sick, man. Sick. That's beautiful. What's up, Lotto Money? How you doing? I have a feeling we walk from Rousseau in 2028. Again, when it comes into Greg, I feel like his extension was more so for us to save cap space this year. But again, I am disappointed in where he is at. As a first-round pick, I wanted this guy to be a 10-plus sack guy. Like, that's at least what we saw from him out of college. I really wanted him to be a couple of steps ahead in his development. And while he has been developing, he's a solid run defender. He is the king of batted passes. A couple of seasons here and there with 6 to 8 sacks. That's great. But I really want him to hit his stride this year. I want this dude to hit his stride. He's a bit behind schedule. And the best time to do it was 2 years ago. But the second best time to do it is right damn now. That's what I always like to say. We have Armani Brown. if I was to grade the Bills offseason right now, I would give them a B or a B plus, and they've been able to build a decent defensive front, but we still need a CB2 and a wide receiver 1, but still got the draft. Yeah, for sure, man, for sure. I know that we were, like, for the most part, our hands were tied. Like, we didn't have New England Patriots money, right? We didn't have Patriots money, or we didn't have Washington Commanders type money. So I think with what we were able to do with the limited funds that were presented to us, I feel pretty damn good. And I would also give them a B as well. As far as a wide receiver number 1, man, we have one, and that's Khalil Shakir. He is our wide receiver number 1, and I think that he's a damn good wide receiver number 1. He's a solid route runner. He is Josh Allen's favorite target. He catches everything. He has great yards after contact. He has great yards after the catch. He's shifty. He's a threat right in the middle of the field, and he's pretty much automatic when targeted. So I don't think that we're on the search for a wide receiver number 1. I think we have one, but I do think that we need a couple of extra role players, like one of which that is pretty solid on the outside that can create separation when it comes into speed. I don't think we want Hardy out there as a starting corner. I'd rather give Ingram a chance. Don't sleep on the development of year 2 players. Josh hasn't stayed completely healthy, though. He has somewhat significant injuries in each of the past 3 seasons, but he'll play through an injury. He's physically able to. Same with Mahomes. Dan, what were your thoughts on the Bosa press conference and the Josh Allen comment about if they win a Super Bowl, they would be immortalized forever? No lies detected. No lies detected. Not only would a statue be built of both of them in downtown Buffalo, a statue would be built of both of them in my backyard, my friend. I would immortalize both of those players and everybody on the roster. It's absolutely correct, and I love it. Rousseau, we still get there with sack totals, faced a ton of double teams, and the Bills relied on him for a lot more than sacks, in my opinion. And you know what? I'm really hoping, as long as we get that right defensive tackle, ideally in the draft, that those double teams are going to be refocused over to that guy. And that's going to open up Gregory Rousseau. But great insight. Solid take, Ed. Solid take. You are absolutely correct. Did we ever grab a cornerback? Not as of yet. A corner has not come to the Buffalo Bills. Some breaking news from Adam Schefter. The Eagles announced they agreed to terms with cornerback Adoree Jackson on a 1-year deal. Saints are making a push for Cooper Kupp. Try to think if there's anything else. Have Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence are fighting on Twitter. Have Rondale Moore visited the Vikings. Lawrence saying the Cowboys won't win a Super Bowl hits different. It's pretty funny. And what was the last thing? Let me see. Oh. That Asante Samuel Jr. visited Arizona. So that is what we are looking at. Mahar, what's going on, man? Okay. So I think we go for Matthew Golden in the first and then go for Landon Jackson so Joey Bosa can mentor him. Yeah. Dude, listen, there are so many different ways that we can go in this draft. And there is a deep class in defensive tackles, at least all the way down to the 4th round, I would say. I think edge rusher is pretty interesting. I've also seen a couple of mock drafts where Mike Green is falling right around 30 as well. So say that we want to take a flyer out on Mike Green, although that he is wildly polarizing. That could potentially be an option for us as well. But okay. So as far as a roster perspective, let's see where we're at. Okay. So safety is where we're sitting at right now. We have Taylor Rapp, we have Cole Bishop, we have Damar Hamlin, Cam Lewis, and Derek Forrest. We have 5 safeties on roster right now. All right. Corner, we have Taron Johnson, we have Christian Benford, we have Jamarcus Ingram, we have Daquan Hardy, and Takori Couch. And I think it's safe to say that Daquan Hardy and Takori Couch are the two players that will be missing. So CB is still an absolute necessity for this team. For linebacker, we have Terrel Bernard, Matt Milano, Dorian Williams, Joe Andreessen, Ulofoshio, and Balin Spector. For defensive tackle, Ed Oliver, we have Daquan Jones, Dwayne Carter, Larry Ogunjobi, Zion Laug, and Branson Dean. Edge rusher, we have Greg Rousseau, Joey Bosa. We have AJ Epinesa. We have Javon Solomon and Michael Hoyt. Wide receiver, we have Shakir, Coleman, Palmer, and Curtis Samuel, Shavers, and KJ Hamler, Virgil, and Laviska Shenault. And then for running backs, we have James Cook, we have Ty Johnson, Ray Davis, Frank Gore Jr., and Darrington Evans. Yeah. That's what we're looking at right now, folks. That is what we are looking at. Now Rousseau has been paid. He needs to put on 20 pounds more muscle. He gets knocked on his ass a lot this season, including the playoffs. Start getting them calories up, baby. And so your boy's on a bulk as well, ladies and gentlemen. I am on a bulk, 4,000 calories a day. 4,000 calories a day. I'm trying to get mega shredded. You know what I mean? Dan, so you think that we are done with the changes, or are we still on the search? My gut feeling is that we're done with any big name signings or larger name signings. I feel like what we bring into the building now is going to be like a 1 year, like $2 million deal, like type contract for some filler players. But as far as impact solutions, specifically at the cornerback position, at the defensive tackle position, edge rusher position, and wide receiver position, I think that we're probably just looking at the draft for now. Dan, I got a good one for you. With the first pick in the draft and both guys are there, who would you take, corner, edge, or defensive tackle? All top players available, just a hypothetical. Okay. Corner, edge, or defensive tackle? At 30? Man. All right, listen, I am going to like white out and not include the Abdul Carters of the world / the Mason Crosbys of the world. But, all right. Dan, I have a good one for you. With the first pick in the draft and both guys are there, who would we take, corner, edge, or defensive tackle? All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the best players from that position group, and I'm going to assume that all of them are available. So you have Jahdae Barron as a CB. You have Kenneth Grant as defensive tackle. And you have Mike Green at edge rusher. Man, I'd probably take Kenneth Grant. But I would not be pissed if we went like either which way. I would not be pissed off either which way. Then it'll be bulking time for me. 4,000 calories. Damn. I know, dude. I know, man. It's absolutely insane. I guess my maintenance calories are like 3,300 or something. And yeah, it's a quick bulk, and so I want to be shredded and yoked. You know what I mean? Eat that chicken, fish, shred out, Dan. That is where it's at. So I bet on the carnivore diet for like 4 or 5 months. So I'm pretty lean right now, which is nice. But so I started noticing that I've been losing some strength in the gym, and I don't want that. So I'm just going on a brief bulk for about 2 months, and then I'll shred up a little bit, right? I'll shred up a little bit after the fact. I want some damn speed at wide receiver for once. We have the big, slow, physical receivers already. We have lots of them and just added another. And the fastest guy on our offense shouldn't be a running back. Funny enough, okay, so here's a trivia question. And nobody cheat and use Google. We have one wide receiver on this team that recorded a sub 4.3. I believe it was. Hold on. Let me see. Okay. So we have one wide receiver on this team that has ran a 4.340 during his combine. Who was it? 4.3. Who was it? Curtis Samuel. 4.340. Let's watch Curtis run that bad boy. Where is it? Where's the Curtis Samuel 40? All right, it's not working for us right now. But yeah, most definitely. We have a we have a wide receiver that's on this roster right now. It's Curtis Samuel. That runs a 4.3. But so I believe that him and Josh Allen just really need to start establishing some chemistry. So we have speed on this. Yeah, like we have speed. Like 4.3 and 4.4. I want to say Shakir ran a 4.4. Let me see. Khalil Shakir 40-yard dash. Yeah. A 4.43 for Khalil Shakir and a 4.31 for Curtis Samuel. So we have speed. And Chenault ran a 4.58. He did, but he's going to be a punt returner for us. And Laviska Chenault, nah, he ran a 4.58, bro. And I forgot Samuel ran that. Not anymore, though. I mean, but is what it is. And plus, like really anybody that you see run like a 4.29 at the combine or anybody that you see run like a 4.3 or 4.4 at the combine, like you're not going to see that out on the field, right? Because how many circumstances are you seeing a wide receiver just run a vertical route, right? At all times, like uninterrupted, like not being covered by a DB, like not consistently looking back and tracking the football. Like, that's why I kind of hate the 40-yard dash, because how many times is that really going to transition on the field? Like we all like see like how like much you could see like a like two prospects going at each other on a 40-yard dash. And sometimes like the difference between a 4.35 and a 4.31 like looks like that it is a country mile, right? Or like it's still pretty close. So I guess that's great, but like there's so many different situations when it comes into football, and there's really not many of them where like you're going to see that 4.28 like out on the field, because not every single time are these guys going to be running just vertical routes all the time. A lot of the times it's not always a house call, right? So that and plus so they also have pads on. So that's kind of why I haven't been too crazy specifically on the 40-yard dash. Even if we have the speed to get downfield, will Brady send it? Soul Train? I mean, yeah, maybe, but hey, right? I never give my boy Joe Brady shit, right? Because my guy, he blessed us with an incredible offense not too long ago. You'll see it with MVS, but he'll drop the ball. Yeah, exactly. And people get caught too much on speed. Speed doesn't matter if you can't catch or you're not on the field, a.k.a. Xavier Worthy. Sorry, way too soon. We have RM56. I think 40 time is good for certain play calls, like a Jamison Williams and Worthy are nasty in those play concepts. Yeah, but like really like when it comes down into it, like how much of a percentage of those plays are going to be there? And listen, I agree. And so I also want a speedster on the outside, but like, I'm not particularly crazy. I am afraid. We have Aaron Butler coming in saying, hey, Dan, and so are you afraid of opposing NFL dialogue? No, not at all. But so recently I have been getting rid of trolls that just come in here and just say the same thing over and over again, or just try to rile up the chat, like with that intention. So I have been getting rid of trolls in the live chat because it just ruins the overall experience. I love everyone that comes in and like rocks with me. Like so many Cowboys fans come in here, Seahawks fans are in here, like Dolphins, Jets fans are in here, and they just want to come in and talk ball. And even my boy, habitual line stepper's in here all the time, and he just talks ball. Like he's not always like dropping, oh, Bills suck, like Bills are terrible, and just like repeating it, like copying and pasting it over and over again. I am no longer babysitting children where their parents should have limited their iPad time significantly. So you are allowed to stay, just don't be annoying. Just Just don't annoy me. You know what I'm saying? That's all I ask. So we didn't have a speedster all season, and we broke the franchise record. I think we are good. I'd still like to add it right to our arsenal, but that's kind of where we're at. Not giving Brady grief. Guys get open in separation. All will take care of itself. 4-3 wide receiver doesn't play third down. We have too crispy. First off, I love that username. I'm curious if we take a running back in this draft. It's supposedly the most loaded draft at that position for quite some time. I suppose I wouldn't be surprised, but like we're sitting on a lot of picks, a shit ton of picks. And it's hard for me to think that we're going to walk away with 12 like new players because like right as somebody pointed out earlier, and I'm super sorry that I forgot who did. Maybe we roster 6 or 7 dudes from this draft class. So maybe, but I don't know. My gut feeling is no. Sarah, Worthy has contributed, though. I just want a different skill set, and all of our wide receivers are the same, and Samuel didn't do a damn thing last season, so it's either a problem with their game and or scheming. So the thing is about Xavier Worthy, see, I feel like with Bills fans, so I feel like with Xavier Worthy, it is just like a sense of the grass is greener on the other side sort of mentality. And this is something that I always like to point out. So here's Keon Coleman's stats last year, and he missed 4 games. He had 556 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 19.2 on average. And Xavier Worthy had 59 receptions and 638 yards and 6 touchdowns at 10.8. And he played every single game all season. So the problem with something is that like people think that it is such a significant drop off or a significant difference. And I'm not saying that Keon Coleman had a better season than Xavier Worthy. I'm not saying the opposite. But by the way that people talk about this Xavier Worthy thing, like, oh my God, like the Bills ended up going like with Keon Coleman rather than Xavier Worthy. Like these guys were literally on pace for the exact same season. And if Keon Coleman wasn't out for 4 games, more than likely, he probably would have ended up beating out his numbers. It just suggests that, right? Especially since his average was 19.2. And where Xavier Worthy, his average was only 10.8, where he ultimately ended up making plays in more short field situations. He has that overall speed, right? So I kind of don't get it, right? I sort of don't get it. Let me see this one too. So that's kind of my thought process behind it. And so everyone's sleeping on Coleman might be the best thing for him. Hopefully he takes it personally. He was one of the better rookie wide receivers until he got hurt. Exactly. Like, I am not worried about Keon Coleman at all. Like, I never expected Keon to be a wide receiver number 1. And so I just thought that he would be a great upgrade from Gabe Davis, which in my opinion, I think Keon Coleman has done more in the contested catch like situations than Gabe Davis ever did in just 1 season. So I do think that Keon is indeed an upgrade from Gabe Davis. I really do. Sarah said, I am cool with Coleman. Great pickup, but why did we turn around and sign another Gabe? Oh, man. So I think, so with every single game that the Buffalo Bills lose it right in the playoffs, so final game, like what I think, and this is something that came out of Brandon Beane's mouth specifically. He said, on your final game of the season, you realize what your weaknesses are. And I think walking out of our playoff loss against the Kansas City Chiefs 2 years ago, there were things that haunted us. And that was that ball that Stephon Diggs should have caught, but he did not catch. So I think when it came into the wide receiver side of things, we were just like, holy shit, like we don't have a guy that can come down with 50-50 balls. So I think going into that offseason, that's what we wanted to address. And that Stephon Diggs, like, trade just completely blindsided us. And while we addressed the Gabe, I think this Buffalo Bills team was under the impression that we were going to have Stephon Diggs last year. So that's my guess, right? Is we just saw like way too many key drops. And last year, like, this Buffalo Bills offense did wonderful in cleaning that up. Like, we did not drop the football too often last year. But now we need a little bit of speed. You know what I mean? That's what we're going with. Sarah's coming in and saying, Dan, so I'm not getting what I'm trying to convey. And so I'm not trying to criticize Coleman at all. I am criticizing the Palmer signing. So I give him a chance. And so I'd give him a chance because he's young. He's 25 years old. And he is probably just as good of a route runner as Amari Cooper. He is just as good of a route runner as Amari Cooper. He was just criminally underutilized over in LA. So I would sort of hold on to hope. And so I'd hold on to hope there. I would hold on to hope. Josem, Kyle Williams in the 4th round, should check him out. Interesting. I certainly will. And people forget the kid is 21 years old, and Palmer has way more reliable hands and better route running than Gabe. And getting a Gabe with good hands is a good addition. That is why. What is up, Dan? I am just wondering. And so you think that the Bills will re-sign Von Miller after the Bosa signing? Wes, fantastic question. I'd be shocked, right? Because right now I'm looking at the edge rusher room. So right now where it stands, we have Greg Rousseau, we have Joey Bosa, we have AJ Epinesa, we have Javon Solomon, and Michael Hoyt, who just signed a 3-year deal. So he's not going anywhere likely. Solomon, we drafted 2 years ago, who I was really high on during the draft. I really, really hope that he can take that next step. I don't think AJ Epinesa is going to be cut. And Bosa, obviously, we just paid, and Craig, we just ended up extending. So I think, say that we add anywhere to our edge rushing department, it's going to be in the draft. So I think we're done as far as who could potentially be a starter. Gabe Davis had that one big game against Kansas City. That's it. Gabe Davis. All right, man. Get Shaq Griffin. Athletic, physical. Problem is that he wants more than 1-year deal, as does Samuel. And the fact Bills not giving a multi-year on a CB means they are definitely drafting high on a cornerback. And I'll tell you what, man, listen, I have been salivating over several prospects that we could potentially bring in the building. Oh my God, listen, man. Like, now that free agency is over for the most part, like, now you're going to see my content sort of transition over into draft prospects exclusively. Oh my God, I'm so excited to be dropping some of this content, guys. Oh man, you have no idea. You have no idea. I have a lot of sleepers that I'm going to make videos on. I have like 1st round targets, mock drafts, obviously, that we will be discussing. So I certainly appreciate this influx of new members in the live chat. It's crazy. 218 of you rocking with me this morning and 235 of you on X too. Stick around, seriously, and make sure you turn on those bell notifications, because we are about to be taking deep dives into just about every single prospect that you want to hear about. So smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, baby. Get in on the action. I thought week 5 through 6 and the offense was exciting and unpredictable with motion. And did you think that there was a change at some point? Less motion or creativity? So the thing is, as much as we love all the pre-snap motion, right? Like, we thought that it was fantastic. There was a surprising uptick in illegal shifts, right? That refs were throwing flags on almost every single week all across the league, right? / illegal motion. It was all over the place. Like, you saw the Miami Dolphins sort of like slow it down, which was one of like the largest contributors to that overall mentality. So I think it had to do with the uptick in flags in illegal motion and illegal shifts, as into why we ended up calming it down, because we were just getting flags all over the place, all across the league. I don't think that it was lack of creativity. It was more so like we didn't want the refs to control the game anymore. So we're no longer pursuing Asante Samuel Jr. I don't know, Ricardo. I did see this morning that he is visiting Arizona. Who knows? Who knows? But if not, I am completely fine. I am still giving this free agency period a B. Dan, and so are you going live during the draft? Jason, and so I might be at the draft. So I might be at the draft. But say that I am not, then yes, of course. Of course I will be live during the draft. And we will be live reacting together, folks. All right, so mark your calendars. If Jahdae Barron makes it past 20 in the first round, the Bills should move up and steal him 110%. My God, 110%. That would be a player I would be fine moving up to 24. If he falls, right? So we need to get a cornerback because Ingram at CB2 terrifies me. He's not terrible, but I do want to upgrade from him, right? Dan, that's rookie numbers, 5,000 calories. Let's go. Jovi Patriot. So I'm only 5'11", right? So I think my my maintenance calories are 3,400, I think. And I heard that say that I have to go to 5,000, and someone said that all I would do is just get fat. So I'm going to stick to my caloric surplus, and hopefully it works out. I don't want to see a scenario where Ingram is frequently starting at cornerback. And 3,400 is crazy high for maintenance. Yeah, so I did some calculator, and so it asked my height, weight, and so then, of course, how active I was. So I put intense workout, and that's where it came from, was 3,400. And so with every morning, so I wake up at 5 a.m., and I go to the gym for 2 hours. And I lift for an hour and a half, and I do a half hour of cardio. So I guess they said that because of that lifestyle, I guess my calories are at 3,400 for maintenance, I guess. I don't know. And so I do that amount for a bulk, and 44 more days until the draft. I know, injected in my veins. 3,400 is crazy. Dan, and so you break up an otherwise very boring day. Calorie counting, huh? Try counting carbs instead. I have a very low carb deficit, surprisingly enough. It's calories for me. And so I'm trying to bulk up a tad. Yeah, dude, like for the past 3 months, so I've been on the carnivore diet, but then I started losing strength in the gym. So now I'm on a bulk, but like, I'm like really not doing a lot of carbs. Like maybe in the morning, I'll have like half a cup of oatmeal. And then for lunch, when I have 2 chicken thighs, maybe I'll have like a half a cup of rice, but that's really all I do. And everything else is just healthy fats and shit ton of protein. 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight for lean muscle gain. Yeah, dude. Yesterday I put down 270 grams of protein, and I feel like that was a tad much. So I'm going to scale back a little bit on that. I'm going to scale back a tad there. His large sack off camera requires 1,000 calories for that alone. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm actually considering carnivore for my cut. Do it. It's good, dude. Trust me. Except for I have noticed, right? Because carbs are brain food, right? And also, so it does give you energy as well. And by like 3 p.m., typically, I would be exhausted. Absolutely exhausted by like 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. EST. And me going live was a struggle because I was trying not to fall asleep, or like I wasn't as locked in as I typically am. But since I started implementing carbs again, like now I'm completely fine. Like full energy. I'm good. It's good for cutting. Just be careful. Jason N is saying, I have this feeling that Bean will trade out of the first and gain back a third and another late round like last year. It could be a Brandon Bean thing. And so you're trying to get as menacing as possible. So when you see TD, Richie, and Colby, that they know not to get out of line without you saying anything to them. Yes, most definitely. Most definitely, man. Listen, like lions and tigers, right? And they always end up going after the weakest gazelle, all right? Because they want to eat and they don't want to fight, right? So I want to get as menacing as possible. So if I'm walking down an alleyway and someone's thinking about mugging me or something like that, they're like, you know what? Maybe I'll wait for the next dude. That's exactly what it is, baby. That's exactly what it is. That, of course, have to protect your family and stuff like that. So I'm just trying to get absolutely insanely jacked. Go Bills. How you doing? Do you think with those 2 fifth-round picks that we got and the second that we got from the Texans could potentially be traded for a first-round pick? Potentially. 270 grams. And did you chase around any liver chickens for dinner or something? Sweet potatoes, brown rice, and fruit. Healthy carbs for energy. I love sweet potatoes. That's my thing. That's my thing. And then Eric says, now I get it. Craig is saying, I eat everything that tastes good and is good for my quarter keg gut. Hey, man, listen, dude, I love that. That works too. And did you get the carnivore diet flu after starting it? Yes, I did. First 5 days were terrible. First 5 days were absolutely terrible. But then, so my body did get used to it. But so the brain fog and so the total lack of energy by like 4 p.m. EST. So we're there, I would say, for the entire time. But good shit. And that's a good reason to bulk up. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Is Davidson the Bills' tight end 3 right now? Yeah, he is. We have Dalton Kincaid. We have Dawson Knox, Zach Davidson, and Armani Rogers are on the roster as tight ends where it stands. I'm doing carnivore now and have lost 50 pounds. Yeah. So what I'm really trying to fucking do is go on a 3-day fast. That's big. That's big. Like my dad does it all the time. And he says it's equivalent, rate, so to your body, like having like 6 iOS updates. It's tough, but I'm thinking about doing that maybe in like 2 or 3 months. So when I do like a 3-day exclusive water fast and see what happens and just experiment with that shit. But now it's bulking time, baby. It's bulking time. What round are we trading up in the draft? So we don't have a 3rd round pick. So I think that we're going to package several of the 5th rounds that we currently have and potentially try and get there with that capital. Meat sweats. You get them. Trust me. That pick did not come from the Texans. It's from the Texans' horns. It actually came from the Minnesota Vikings, technically. Eric is saying, are there any good prospect corners in the draft? I haven't been following that. Yes, most definitely. It just depends on where you want to pick one. As far as the elite of the elite, I'd say Jahdae Barron from Texas, but like so many mock drafts have him going like top 10. So he's really out of reach for me. We have Siobhan Revel, who I am very high on. We also have a Maxwell Hairston out of Kentucky, who I am very high on as well. We have Darian Porter. I believe he's out of Iowa State. I am very high on Darian Porter. Then there's Azarie Thomas, a Florida State CB2. And then additionally, like later in the rounds, have a Kobe Bryant, who is also interesting. A lot of really good prospects that I'm excited. Fast longer than 16 hours, start detoxing your body and promotes faster healing, dead to rights. So I have done a 24-hour before, but I think that I didn't hydrate appropriately and had like 0 electrolytes. So I think I might start off slow and do a 24-hour eventually. But now, like I'm saying, I'm just doing a quick little like month or a 2-month bulk. And then I'll probably hop on the fasting game. We got Michael. I like Darian Porter. So do I. He's one of my favorites. Saltwater helps. It does. So with real, like with real Celtic sea salt, like that's really all you need. That, and so a little bit right in your water, and like you're good. And there's tons of good corners in this draft. There really is. I've done a 3-day fast and 2-day dry fast, but this was like 6 years ago. Felt good at the time before carnivore. I'm going to do a 5-day bone broth fast. Oh, man, look at that, man. We have a bunch of meatheads in here. Look at that, man. We have a bunch of fitness people in here, man. Look at that. I love that, man. Now, say, for example, that any of y'all duck hunt or something like that, then we're really talking about that. See, guys, listen, y'all only know, like me, on my football side, all right? And so I have a whole nother personality outside of football, surprisingly enough. This is great. This is great. I hope things do well, Chase. Saltwater helps. It certainly does. Saltwater in the mornings, a Pedialyte diet. Oh, shit. I'm bean fasting? Interesting. Bean fasting. Okay. Let's see. Morris is tight end 3 unless someone stole him and I missed it. I know Jets writers were pushing for it. He's not on the roster currently. And granted, there were several like rumors of him going somewhere. A 5-day water fast will make you immortal. Oh my God. Immortal. And grumpy as fuck too, I'm sure. Oh my God, I'd be grumpy, bro. A lot of good suggestions. Do what works for you. Best of luck, man. Go get it. I love it. In regards to Benford, I am wondering if the front office is a little reluctant to throw term and cash at a guy with injuries. He has kind of been piling up. So I'm curious about that, right? Because we know that he had that. So we know that he ultimately ended up having that concussion right in the playoffs, back-to-back concussions. Let's take a look. Because, listen, I would not blame the Buffalo Bills for being reluctant because we've seen that movie before, right? So we pay a corner and he turns out to be injury prone and he never ends up living back to what his expectations were. And let's take a look at this, right? He played 9 games. He started 5 right over here. I'm not sure if there was any injury associated with this season or if, for example, he must have been injured for a little bit. He played 15 games in 2023. In 2024, he played 15. Okay. So we have that. So that's not completely terrible. Let's check out his injury history. Let's see. Here we go. Okay. So here's his injury history. He had a wrist, which was massive because for some reason, like last year for the Buffalo Bills, man, like we had a wrist problem. So he had a concussion last year, obviously, right in the playoffs. He was questionable. Week 9, right in the conference championship, he had a concussion, which he was questionable. He had back-to-back concussions, basically. Wrist injury, week 9. In 2023, a knee, he was out. Hamstring, he was out week 10. And so the divisional championship in 2023. So he had 3 injuries. He was questionable week 5, but he played anyway. In 2022, it was a hand injury, week 4 and week 5. So, yeah. So week 4 and week 5. So he really only missed 4 games his entire career and left obviously during the championship game. It could be a possibility. Free agency is so boring. I know, man, right? I know, dude. That one thing I don't get, some Bills fans were flipping out about Bosa signing because of the injuries, but how many of our starting defenders missed 3+ games in each of the past 3 seasons? Quite a bit. That dude from Reacher show has got to be on steroids. Oh, yeah, for sure. So it's almost like everyone. So of our main guys, Oliver, Groot, Benford, Milano, and Bernard, and they've all had seasons missing 3+ games, I think. Yeah, so they fit in perfectly within this defense. But all right, folks, thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of Da Mafia Live. I do want to remind everybody that myself, Richie, and TD, we just launched the new show on the Roundtable Sports Network called Fourth and Forever. It is a daily, NFL news show where we end up discussing all of the trending topics surrounding the league. I really want to make sure that you guys have an opportunity of checking it out. All right, here, let me go ahead and do a quick little promo of what it looked like for us over here. All right, so we have all this. An idea.
Round pick. What are they? This could be a nice. Oh, y'all.
Look at all that, man. We end up talking and yapping a lot about football, man, which is pretty solid. So we are live Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. EST. I really hope that you guys go ahead and check that out. And for all of you draft connoisseurs, we also just released on this exact same channel a show called Draftaholics. And Draftaholics, boys.
That's what makes him.
Draftaholics, by the way, guys, is a show that I think you could really, really, really enjoy. Right over here, guys. They go deep into draft analysis. It's all over on the Roundtable Sports YouTube channel. Certainly go check that out. Thank you so much for tuning in, y'all. Love you. Have a great day. Do good, be good. God bless. Go Bills. We'll see you soon. Love that. I stole it from Josh Allen. Don't call me out.